ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिके। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यैश्वरं। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिधि नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादि पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. So we are moving on from the 12th chapter to the 13th chapter today. 13th chapter marks the beginning of the third section of Bhagavad Gita. As we previously discussed, the first 6 chapters are one section, then the next 7 to 12 and then 13 to 18. So starting with this Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yogam, that is this chapter called, Prabhupada calls it nature, enjoyer and consciousness. Now from the 6th chapter to the 12th chapter, Lord Krishna has concluded his description of Bhakti Yoga. And from 13 to 18 chapters, Krishna will now speak more on Jnana Yoga. So the question arises, if Bhakti is the ultimate, then why is Jnana presented after the discussion on Bhakti? Correct? See, trying to understand that there is a connection between the bhakti and jnana, that will make us understand why it is so. Because Krishna is protecting his devotees from birth and death. He is relieving us from this process of birth and death. Correct? That he discusses in chapter 12, Bhakti Yoga. In 13th chapter, Krishna is 13 to 18. Krishna is now going to give the philosophical knowledge, that is required to get us out of this material entanglement. So this Jnana section, although we call it Jnana section, the essence is always Bhakti. In the first 6 chapters, we are talking about how Karma Yoga culminates in Bhakti. Now, this last 6 chapters, how Jnana or attaining knowledge to culminate in Bhakti. And the middle 6 chapters discuss Bhakti directly. Okay? Jnana is useful for what? If we utilize Jnana as a tool to attain Bhakti, then it becomes part of Bhakti, then it becomes Jnana complements Bhakti. One thing we must understand always very clearly is that without bhakti, both jnana and karma are not of much use to us at all. That is why bringing bhakti in the middle of the Bhagavad Gita, putting karma on one side, jnana on one side, bhakti is adding value to this karma and jnana actually. And 13th chapter, a total of 35 shlokas are there. And chapter begins with Arjuna asking Krishna to explain 6 things. And those 6 questions are answered by Arjuna in the first 7 verses of the chapter, where Krishna speaks about the kshetra or the field of activities and kshetrajna, the one who knows the field. And then from shloka 8 to shloka 12, Krishna explains the process of knowledge at this jnana and mukti, liberation. And then 13th shloka to the 19th shloka, Krishna explains Jnaya, means object of knowledge. What is the object of knowledge? And then verse 20 to 26, Krishna discusses Prakriti, Purusha and how they are connected. And then the end part of the chapter, 27th shloka till the end of the chapter, the vision of knowledge, Jnana Chakshu, how you see things through the eye of knowledge. So this is how this chapter is structured. As discussed previously, this chapter is very technical, so it gives a lot of data to the reader, to the student, about how this entire material nature is structured and how the soul becomes entangled in the material nature, etc., etc. Arjuna begins the chapter by asking question, Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Kshetram Kshetrajnameva Cha Etad Vedidum Ichchami Jnanam Jneyam Cha Keshava. So Arjuna is asking about Prakriti, Purusha, Kshetram, Kshetrajnam, Jnanam, Jneyam. So this is what he wants to know about Prakriti, that is nature, about Purusha, who is the enjoyer, Kshetra, field of activities, Kshetrajna, knower of the field of activities, Jnanam, knowledge, and Jneyam, object of knowledge, that which is to be known. And immediately Krishna replies, Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetram Ityabhidhiyate Etad yo veti tam prahu Kshetrajna iti tadvidaha Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajnayor jnanam yatta jnanam matam mama. So Krishna now says, Idam shariram kaunteya kshetram iti abhidhiyate. O Kaunteya, son of Kunti, this body, idam shariram, this body is called the kshetra, the field. And one who knows this body is called the knower of the field. And then Krishna continues, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. So now Krishna has spoken about Kshetra. He has spoken about the two types of Kshetrajna, and he has also spoken about Jnana, knowledge about what it is all about. So, what is field or what is Kshetra? Kshetra means, Krishna says, the body. Kshetrajna means one who knows the body. Who is that one who knows the body? You and me, sitting inside our body, we are the knower of the body, Kshetrajna. So, Kshetra, body, Kshetrajna, soul. Then Krishna says, Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Then he says, one more Kshetrajna is there. Hey Arjuna, one more Kshetrajna is there. Who is that? Sarva kshetreshu. He knows all the kshetras. That means there is one more knower, one more Kshetrajna who knows all the bodies. Who is that? Paramatma. You see? And then Krishna says that knowledge about the Kshetra and Kshetrajna is Jnanam. That means one who knows the body, one who knows the soul, and one who knows the Paramatma. So, these three, if we know, that is the beginning of knowledge actually. So, as Jiva, as a soul sitting inside this body, my Kshetrajna aptitude, that is, my ability to know is limited to my own body. This is very important to know. That is, my ability to know the field of activity where everything is taking place, that is limited to my body. And even that limitation is, how do I say it? it is not that you know everything that is going on in every inch of your body. That is also not possible. Just like a farmer knowing his field. He knows that field, I am cultivating these things in my field, like that. Okay? Different crops grow in the field, like that. Different karmas we have sown, and different things are growing. So there is some happiness growing, there is some distress growing, like that. So we also know our body, but not that we know everything about the body. So Kshetrajna means knowledge about the body, but that also is not complete or perfect. Whereas if we take the other Kshetrajna, that is the one who knows all the Kshetras, that is one who knows what is happening in every body, that knower is a perfect knower. Why? Because he is the all-knowing Paramatma. So that is why Prabhupada says that perfect knowledge of the constitution of the body, constitution of the individual soul, and constitution of the super soul is known in terms of Vedic literature as Jnana. And that is the opinion of Krishna. So Krishna says that these two are the knowers, this is the field. And knowing these things is Jnana. And then Krishna goes on to say that now I will explain to you that how the Kshetra is constituted, how it changes, when the Kshetra is produced, who that knower of the Kshetra is, and what his influences are. So these are the 5 things that Krishna is elaborating in this chapter. Once again, description of field of activity Kshetra, how it is constituted, how it changes, what are its changes, when it is produced, and who is that knower. So, and the influence of the knower. So, these things Krishna will discuss throughout the chapter. And then now Krishna goes on to say something very, very important. That I will discuss this in some elaboration, but if you want to know in greater detail, Krishna also now informs us where this information is coming from. Very, very important. Rishibir bahuda geetam chando birvividhai prathak brahma sutra padhaschaiva hetu madbhir vinishchitai. Krishna says, Rishibir bahuda geetam chandobir vividhai prathak. That the Kshetra Jnana and the Jnana about Kshetra Jnana is Rishibir Bahuda Geetam. Different rishis have explained it differently based on Chanda. Chandas means Vedic explanation. Chandas means Shruti. Here the indication is towards Shruti. Why? He is following it up with Brahma Sutra Padaschaiva. It is where it is found, Brahma Sutra or the Vedanta Sutra. There it is explained with cause and effect. Hedu madbhir vinishchitai. So, with cause and effect, this whole thing is described in the Brahma Sutras, and different rishis based on different chandas, they have explained it in various different ways. Now, the question is, Krishna is knower of everything. Krishna is the source of all knowledge. But why is Krishna pointing to Vedanta Sutra? So the Acharyas are saying, Krishna has now taken the role of Arjuna's Guru. So, Guru is always expected to explain everything based on Shastra. And when we speak about Shastra, we are talking about all Shastra that comes in the Vedic Pantha, the Vedic way, whatever is coming, the Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Pancharatra, all those things. So all those things put together is a Vedic literature, and the Guru, when he is explaining, he is expected to explain these things based on Guru, and Guru is expected to explain these things based on Shastra and Sadhu. So basically the knowledge that we receive is based on this troika of Guru, Shastra and Sadhu. Both Guru and Sadhu are expected to speak from Shastra. So, we can always tally what Guru speaks with Sadhu and Shastra. Sadhu means one who is completely devoted to Krishna. One who is totally surrendered to Krishna, that is the Mukhya Lakshana of a Sadhu, we must know. So, one who is completely surrendered, perfectly surrendered to Krishna, who is a Sadhu, so his opinion automatically will match with what is given in the Vedic literature, and the Guru who follows Shastra and Sadhu will also match everything that he speaks with the Shastra. And the ultimate of the Shastra is the Vedanta Sutra, because Vedanta Sutra is the culmination of Veda. And the Vedanta Sutra is explained by Vyasa himself through the Srimad Bhagavata Purana. That is one of the reasons why we, followers of Srila Prabhupada, principally study these two books. And then the activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a postgraduate study. But for us, the graduate study is Bhagavad Gita, what we are studying now, and then the postgraduate study is Srimad Bhagavatam, and then the postgraduate study is actually Chaitanya Charitamrita, the appearance and activities of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, here Krishna is telling Arjuna that if you want more information, you can look at Brahma Sutra Padaschaiva Hetumadbir Vinischitaihi. So, Brahma Sutra explains everything from the point of cause and effect. Basically, the entire Vedic literature and all the philosophical discussions that goes through all the Shad Darshanas, philosophical analysis and conclusion, everything is based on this cause and effect theory only. So, don't think that the cause and effect theory was started by some 20th or 19th or 18th century physicist. This was started right from the time of Veda, when Vyasa Maharshi divided the undivided Veda into three and gave it to his three principal disciples, who shared it, or they further divided it among their disciples, and those disciples together they studied it from the point of view of cause and effect, and that is how you have the Shad Darshanas. So all those things, so much of detailed jnana is available there. And in this chapter 13, Krishna is just put together the bare minimum required. And this is, as far as we are concerned, this itself is more than sufficient. This itself is very difficult for us to understand. But Krishna says that if you want to search for the truth, then you can go and search in the Brahma Sutra or the Vedanta Sutra. Both are same. It is also called Badarayani Sutra because it is written by sage Krishna Dvaipayana. Okay. Then Krishna continues the field of activities and the interactions. Krishna says the five great elements, the Panchamahabhutas, false ego, that is ahankara, intelligence, buddhi, the unmanifested, what we call as avyakta, then the 10 senses and the mind, the 5 sense objects, put together how much? 5 great elements, false ego 6, intelligence 7, unmanifested 8, plus 10 senses 18, then mind 19, 5 sense objects 24. These are the 24 elements which we call as the basic elements of the material nature. And then Krishna says the interaction. What is the 7 qualities of the mind that is derived from the interaction of the 24 elements that are enumerated in Shloka 6 and 7? What are they? Desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms and convictions. So, all these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interactions. So, if you want to know how this material world is constituted, Krishna is explaining, this is what is called jnana. You see, now we are trying to only understand how the whole material nature is existing, and that has come out of this, that is actually nothing but a combination of these 24 elements. The Panchamahabhutas or the 5 gross elements. Krishna already discussed previously in Bhagavad Gita. Bhumi, Apaha, Anala, Vayu, Kham. All of you know about this. Bhumi, Rapo, Analo, Vayu, Khammano, Buddhirevacha, Ahankara, Midiyam me, Bhinna Prakriti There Krishna is speaking about the 8 Prakritis, out of which 5 are these Panchamahabhutas. So you have 5 Panchamahabhutas. Then you have 5 Jnanendriyas. 5 knowledge acquiring senses. These are the elements that help us, the Dehi sitting inside the body, acquire knowledge. And what are those? Eyes, nose, ear, mouth, skin. So, eyes to see, nose to smell, ears to hear, mouth to taste, and skin to touch. Sense perception, touch perception through the skin. So, you have Panchamahabhutas and then the Pancha Jnanendriyas, and then you have the 5 Vishayas of the Jnanendriyas. That is Indriya Vishaya. What are those? Sight, smell, sound, taste and touch. So, these are the objects of the senses. Correct? Any sight, object of your eye, any smell, object of your nose, any sound, object of your ear, any taste, object of your tongue, and any touch, object of your skin. So, 15. And then you have 5 working senses: hands, legs, mouth, rectum and genitals. These are 5 working senses, karmendriyas they are called. Then along with that comes the mind, intelligence and false ego. So, this is how the elements are there and they constitute this kshetra. So, actually the body is a combination of these things. That is why they say that you come from the Panchabhutas and you go back to the Panchabhutas. That is, the body comes from the Panchabhutas and the body goes back to the Panchabhutas once the journey is completed. Correct? Whatever Vayu is there inside your body will go and, it will get mixed with the Vayu. Whatever empty space is there within becomes part of the Antariksha. Whatever liquid is there in our body will evaporate and mix with water, and whatever rest is left is earth, basically, dirt. That gets mixed with the earth. That's it. You see? So, that's all there is. So, Krishna says to Arjuna, understand that these are the things that make up this whole kshetra. And then Krishna then explains the process of knowledge. Arjuna asks kshetra, we are speaking about kshetra, kshetrajna jnanam. So, in 4 shlokas, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 5 shlokas, Krishna will describe what is knowledge. And this is also very important for us to know. What Krishna sees as knowledge. Krishna will enumerate so many things and he will say, these are knowledge, and besides this, whatever may be there is ignorance. So, if you want to become actually knowledgeable, Krishna says, these are the processes of knowledge. And Krishna is starting to explain humility. First point Krishna makes is humility. Second, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, that is taking shelter of a guru. Then cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification. Not speaking about sense gratification, renouncing the objects of sense gratification. Very, very important. These are very subtle points that Krishna makes and we always tend to miss them. Absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home and the rest. This is knowledge. On the platform of knowledge only you will have freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home and the rest. Even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me. Krishna is counting this among knowledge, we must remember that. Aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people. These two things you may misunderstand. Aspiring to live in a solitary place means away from the crowd, basically. That means you are concentrating on yourself, antarmukha. This is something we discussed throughout Bhagavad Gita. How being antarmukha is very, very important for any transcendentalist. So living in a solitary place is becoming antarmukha, and detachment from the general mass of people. That means general mass of people are not interested in spirituality. That is why detachment from the general mass of people is considered to be one anga of knowledge. Okay. Then accepting the importance of self-realization. Very, very important, because among jnana, what we speak most importantly is that in this human life only we are getting this opportunity to know who am I. Okay. So to realize myself, and only on a platform of knowledge I will understand the importance of it. And then Krishna also adds philosophical search for the absolute truth. The jnani, you see, through philosophy he is searching the tattva jnanartha darshanam, adhyatma jnana nityatvam. These two are specific for the jnanis Krishna is giving. And then in the next verse, Krishna speaks about the jnayam, object of knowledge. Krishna will say that by knowing which you will taste the eternal, explaining the knowable. And what is the knowable? Krishna speaks. Very wonderful. Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. Talking about the Parabrahman, Paramatma. And he now says, everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the super soul exists, pervading everything. So this pervading everywhere. We speak about omnipresent, omnipotent. These are two natures of the supreme absolute truth. So here Krishna is touching upon that pervading everything. That means he is spread everywhere throughout the creation. And how is he spread? He is spread through his Shakti or his energy. We must understand. So that is why they say when you see Krishna everywhere, that means you see the Shakti of Krishna that can be seen through various wonderful things. That is why Krishna discussed the Vibhuti Yoga in the 10th chapter. So like that, Krishna's energy is spread throughout as Brahman. And then goes on to say that the super soul is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. He is unattached, although he is the maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of nature and at the same time is a master of all the modes of material nature. You see, everything is achintya bheda abheda. You must understand that he is above the three modes of material nature. He is transcendental to it, but he is the master of it also. The supreme truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and the non-moving. Because he is subtle, he is beyond the power of the material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all. You will know that these verses sound purely Upanishadic. This 15, 16, 17, 18, you will find very similar construction in the Upanishads. So 13th chapter makes Gita, very, very Upanishad-like. We also call Gita the Gita Upanishad, but it is in chapter 13 we will find. Also in chapter 2, the verses where it describes the nature of the soul. There also it is very Upanishad-like. Here also it is very Upanishad-like, these verses. Because when we study each Upanishad, we will find similar thing being said about the Supreme Isha. Krishna continues, although the super soul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. You see? Again, as I said, achintya bheda abheda. That is, the Paramatma appears as if he is divided in all the living entities, although he is one. That means, is he individually present in every living entity as Paramatma? Yes. But is he cut into different pieces of Paramatma everywhere distributed? No. One same Paramatma. He is there in my heart, he is there in your heart, he is there in his heart, her heart, everybody's heart. You see? So, although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops them all. He is also the Samharaka. Correct? We saw in the Kala Anala of the universal form Vishwarupa Darshanam, we saw how everything enters into the Agni in the mouth of Kala Anala. He is the one who is developing them all also. And he is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge. He is the object of knowledge. He is the goal of knowledge. So, this Paramatma is knowledge. He is Jnanam Jneyam. You see? So, he is only Sadhya. Where we have to reach through knowledge is him only. He is situated in everyone's heart. That is what it is, that he is in the Hridi Sarvasya. In everybody's heart, this Paramatma is sitting. So, when we read through these verses and when we read Srila Prabhupada's explanation to these verses, you will find Srila Prabhupada extensively quoting from the Upanishads also. Because, as I said, these verses have very much close affinity to the Upanishads. And then Krishna goes on to say, Iti kshetram tadajnanam jneyam choktam samasataha madbhakta etad vijaniya etad vijnaya madbhava yopapadyate. Thus the field of activities, which is the body, knowledge and the knowable, have been summarily described by me. And then Krishna says, madbhakta etad vijnaya madbhavayopapadyate. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain my nature. So, in the 19th verse, Krishna introduces bhakti. After describing all very, very jnana type of deep discussion about material nature, deep discussion about the nature of the Paramatma, how he is inexplicable, how he is this and not this, how he is that and not that. You see? All achintya nature of inconceivable nature of the Supreme Absolute Truth, who is the Supreme Brahman, who is the Paramatma, who is the Bhagavan. All same. That Supreme Bhagavan is only Paramatma. That Supreme Bhagavan only is Brahman. You see? So all these, after all these deep discussions, then Krishna says that my bhakta can only understand these things. And then Krishna goes on to explain Prakriti and Purusha, because Arjuna asked those two questions also. So Krishna Continuing to explain, Krishna will say that both Prakriti and Jiva are beginningless, and their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. So, actually it is not that the living entity does not get transformed at all. Okay, but anything in the material world has its transformation. How is it? It comes into being, it grows for some time, then it exists for some time, then it makes byproducts, then it will deteriorate, and then it will be destroyed. This is the nature of, this is what happens to everything in this material world. The vikaras or the changes that Krishna speaks about are these changes. Okay, but only the material nature undergoes this vikara or this transformation. Living entity or jiva, I don't change, but I think I change because I identify with the body. So I will say I am young, I used to be young, I used to be a small boy, and now I have become, then I was a youth, now I am middle aged, I am going to be old. But the you have not changed at all. What are you witnessing is that the change of your body actually. You see? So this change of the body is something that is visible to each and every one of us. But we are not thinking in terms of the jnana that it is the body that is changing. We are thinking I am changing, That is why we say, as I grow older, I will become wiser. Nothing happens. You are you only. Unless you associate with wise men, you will not become wise. Just because your body grows old, don't think that you become wiser. Not at all. It doesn't happen like that. There's a great misunderstanding again because of the Dehatma Buddhi. Because you identify with the body, you think that when the hair becomes grey, I am going to be greatly knowledgeable. Growing beard and growing long hair, you will not become Vedavyas. Nothing like that happens. That is simply, if you don't cut your hair, it will grow long. If you don't shave, you will grow a beard. But growing these two things are not some sign of Atma Vidya or something like that. Nothing. That are all thoughts that comes out of the understanding that I am the body. So when the body changes, I change. No, nothing. Body only changes. You don't change. Your change comes from within when you move in this direction. In which direction? Towards understanding yourself. In that direction, when you move, then you change. Other than that, what is changing is that the material nature around us. And Krishna goes on to say, the nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and defects, whereas living entity is the cause of various sufferings and enjoyments. So once again, Krishna comes to the question of karta. This was discussed in chapter 3, discussed in chapter 5, now again very briefly discussed in chapter 30. That living entity is only causing all his sufferings and enjoyments in this world. Why? Because you are trying to control Prakriti. That Prakriti made of these 24 elements. But you don't understand that you cannot control this Prakriti. Correct? Why? Mama Maya Duratya Mamyevaye Prabhadyante Maya Metam Tarantite. Krishna already explained. Because she is insurmountable, you don't try to control. Only because I am trying to control, I am having all this distress because I cannot control. So, Krishna continues, the living entity in the material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil among various species. Yet in this body, there is another transcendental enjoyer who is the supreme proprietor, who acts as overseer and permitter and who is known as Paramatma. So this is the verse that actually deals with the relationship between the Jivatma and Paramatma. That within this Kshetra also is there the other knower who is the Kshetrajna, who knows everything, who knows the small Kshetrajna as well, very well, not only the Kshetra. So this is the relationship between the Kshetrajna, that is Jiva, and the Kshetrajna, that is Paramatma. And Krishna says that understanding this, One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, living entity, and interaction of the modes is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. You see? How does that happen? Because if you clearly understand material nature, then you will understand that body is part of that. And if you understand the nature of the Paramatma as the knower of everything, that means automatically you will understand the subordinate position of the Jivatma vis-a-vis the Paramatma. So what will that bring? That brings knowledge that I am not this body, I am subordinate to Paramatma. So when I act based on that knowledge, automatically, where now Krishna says, sure to attain liberation. So we are already on the path towards liberation if we act based on this knowledge that we get. Okay? And then Krishna says that some perceive the super soul through within themselves through meditation, others through cultivation of knowledge, others through working without fruitive desires. So again Krishna speaks about Nishkama Karma and also meditation and through Jnana also. And then Krishna also says something very, very important here. After that, he says that there may be some people who are not well conversant in spiritual knowledge, but they also start worshipping the Supreme Lord simply by hearing from other people. And Krishna says, because they have a tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. So, this hearing from authority has great potency. Hearing from authority has got great potency. Jnaninas tattva darshinaha. So when a realized soul is speaking and you simply hear, although you are not a great Pandit, Jnani and all these things, you are not a great yogi, you are not a Nishkama Karma yogi, but simply we have some affinity towards hearing from authority. So what happens? That is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastra Kahe, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhihaya. That is, even a little bit of Sangha with the Sadhu, you will get all the perfections that is required. So, attentive listening to authority and a proclivity towards that will help us a great bit in becoming transcendently situated. And then Krishna says that everything that you see is actually nothing but a combination of Kshetra and Kshetrajna. And one who can see that Paramatma is accompanying the Jivatma in all the bodies, he is the one who actually sees. Krishna says that neither the Atma nor the Paramatma within the destructible body is actually destroyed. He said that is actual seeing. Pashyanti. Pashyanti means to see. What is actual vision? This Gyan vision, we spoke about at the beginning of the chapter. How you see on the basis of Jnana. That when we are able to see that Paramatma is accompanying Jivatma through all the bodies and that these two have no end. Whereas everything else that we are covered with has got an end, a beginning and an end. And seeing the Paramatma being present everywhere in every living being, that person is approaching the transcendental destination. And one who can see that activities are performed by body and that is created by material nature, then he sees that actually I am not doing anything. And that is actual vision. See, Pashyanti again. What is actual vision is that I see that I am not doing anything. Rather, I have nothing to do with what is going on, what my body is doing. So this is platform of Jnana. And with that, he becomes Brahma Bhuta. He attains that Brahma Bhuta state. And in that Brahma Bhuta state, what happens? Those with that vision of eternity can see the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal and beyond the modes of nature. So at that stage, we don't become entangled anymore. Again, to be able to see ourselves as Atma, that is transcendental to all that we are seeing around us, that will make us free from this entanglement. You see, as I said, even though we don't understand these things so deeply, if we have a nature and open heart to hear these things from an authority like Prabhupada, automatically we will become eligible for liberation. Automatically all this knowledge somehow will come to us. We don't know how. So that is our hope. And then Krishna goes on to complete by saying that, O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. Those who see with the eyes of knowledge the difference between body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attain to the supreme goal. So, if you understand the body, if you understand yourself sitting within the body, and if you understand the process by which we can come out of this body consciousness, then we can attain the supreme goal. That Krishna is explaining to Arjuna by explaining the nature of everything that is material, how the 24 elements make up all these things, and how actually the I sitting inside this combination of the 24 material elements is different from those combination of material elements. And then along with me as the knower, as the Kshetrajna, there is one more Kshetrajna who is actually the Supreme Lord, who is pervading everything, who is all pervasive, all knowing. So knowing these three things, and then knowing the process of how to come out of this whole bondage of this material existence, bondage that is caused due to ajnana. So by getting jnana and acting on that jnana, you will be able to come out of that bondage, and then that way you can proceed towards the ultimate goal of life, that is to go back to Godhead. And then, because this chapter is meant for a lot of contemplation, as I said, a lot of Upanishadic explanations are there in this chapter. It should always be studied very scrutinizingly under the instruction of a guru. That is what would be most ideal, and that way, by understanding these things, we will be able to work towards coming out of this situation of bondage and moving towards actual freedom, which is liberation from this material existence. So this is how the 13th chapter becomes concluded. Hare Krishna.